Roxo Media House. From the Flying T Club studios at Roxo Media House, this is Frogs Today. Our own Dave Beaudin breaks down the NFL Combine for TCU. Frogs Today insider Jamie Plunkett previews this baseball weekend for Kirk Saarloos' team. And now with the latest news and notes from TCU Athletics, here's your host, the voice of the TCU Horned Frogs, Brian Estridge.
Welcome into the Wednesday edition of Frogs Today. We come to you live today from the Flying T Club studios, and we start the day with some news and notes before we head off into a discussion about the NFL Combine in Indianapolis with David Beaudin a little bit later on, a preview of the weekend for TCU baseball down at Minute Maid with Jamie Plunkett. All those are still to come, but right now, the news today obviously starts with Reagan Peebly. She announced just a couple of days ago that she will be resigning effective at the end of the women's basketball season. Coach Peebly had been the head coach here at TCU since 2014. Her final home game, by the way, will be on Saturday at 1 o'clock as her team will play host to Kansas. We hope you make it out and support Coach Peebly in her final year now at TCU. How about the start for beach volleyball over the weekend? 4-0 to open the season. They won 40 of 42 sets at that tournament down in South Texas. Now they get ready to travel to Tampa, where they'll be taking on number 2 Florida State and number 8 Georgia State in a big-time tournament to open up the beach volleyball schedule, if you will. Men's swimming finished number 2 in the Big 12 championships down in Austin. Women finished number 3 in the Big 12, as a matter of fact. They now turn their attention to postseason. We turn our attention to college basketball right now, where tonight the Horned Frogs get set to take on the Texas Longhorns, of course. We hope you had a chance to see State of the Frogs this week with head coach Jamie Dixon, who previewed this matchup tonight. Also Saturday, they'll take on Oklahoma. First, so we want to continue to celebrate that win last Saturday for TCU. That's against Texas Tech. Frogs had lost 7 straight at United Supermarkets Arena before that matchup on Saturday. We caught up with Jamie Dixon post-game for his press conference right now.
Obviously, what a great game on a Saturday at 11 o'clock. People are on the edge of the seats. Great crowd for Texas Tech and great atmosphere. And certainly they kept battling, kept fighting, and got back in it. And we kept fighting through it, and was proud of how we handled the last minute. We obviously had big foul trouble throughout. But we took care of the ball with just 10 turnovers, and that was huge for us. Made our free throws and made them take, I think, tough threes. Even the one they hit that down the stretch of Banner, I told our guys, keep our head up. That's the shot we have to make them take, and he hit a tough one. So defensively, we've got to do a better job. Too many layups, but that's what we've got to. I got to do a better job on that. But 50% from the field, 19. I think. What were we? 50% from the field, or 49, and then 19 assists and 10 turnovers. I think that was a big factor for us. And then we out-rebounded down the stretch, so that was good to see. So great win for us. And again, obviously we had 3 guys out: Eddie, Rondell, and PJ. So we have 8 guys. And but it was a good rotation. We had a good rotation with those 8, and everybody was 20 minutes or above, I think. And I think that made us. I think that got us through.
That's head coach Jamie Dixon getting his team ready now for Texas tonight, 8 o'clock at Schollmeyer Arena. Coming up next, let's turn our attention to the NFL Combine. Coming up in Indianapolis, the Horned Frogs have the 3rd highest number of players invited to Indy. Our own David Beaudin starts to dissect their chances next when Frogs Today continues after this timeout. The Flying T Club provides the everyday TCU fan and alum the ability to specifically support TCU student athletes. Flying T Club offers 3 levels of memberships. The Flying T Club is a nonprofit organization supporting the brand development of TCU student athletes through a series of unique event-based networking opportunities, which are exclusive to our members. These events provide a great social engagement tool for our members and student athletes alike. Follow them on Instagram at Flying T Club or online at flyingtclub.com.
Dave's Hot Chicken is a cult favorite and now has 2 locations in Fort Worth: Bryant Irvin Road on I-20 and Berry Street at TCU. Both owned and operated by Horned Frogs. Mention the Frogs Today show and get 10% off anytime, and order online at daveshotchicken.com.
This is Cowtown Headache Center. neurology clinic that specializes in headache medicine. We offer standard oral medications, we offer trigger point injections, we offer multiple nerve blocks, we offer infusions both for prevention medication and for acute relief. My name is Andrew Levere. I'm a physician assistant that has a special certification from the National Headache Foundation in headache medicine. Patients are pretty shocked when I tell them we have tons of options for them and that we can do better than what they're doing. I don't just tell you, here's one medicine we're going to try. I'll give them options, and then ultimately we choose together as the provider and patient. It's very satisfying to know that we're changing people's lives.
Welcome back into the Flying T Club studios here on the Wednesday. We promised the coach, David Beaudin, would be by from dissecting the Frogs, kind of break down what's happening as far as the NFL Combine is concerned. We'll start to see it on Thursday with the on-the-field stuff. Frogs have 8 players there? Nine players there. Yeah, 9 players there. So that puts them as the 3rd highest number. It says a lot about this team, doesn't it, the respect that people around the country see.
Yeah, it sure does. I mean, we knew all year long, obviously locally, but they got put on the national stage, of course, with the playoff run. But to see that they had the players to back it up, and really a lot of senior leadership, whatever that means these days, right, as seniors. But yeah, no, they took, certainly took notice.
Are you a believer in the Combine? It's become so much for show now. What are these teams looking for out of it?
Well, I think the interviews are really important. I think anytime you can get around guys, I think also the instruction on the field from the coaches and scouts, not so much for the actual action of it, but I think how they receive coaching, how quickly can they transfer that information and apply it to what they're doing, I think says a lot. And then also how it fits into their system, right? Yeah. What each program, each NFL franchise is going to ask guys to do something just a little bit differently to see if they fit. I think those things are important. I think lastly, just having another baseline, it's another spoke in the wheel, so to speak, right, of just evaluation. I don't think it's the end-all, be-all by any means. I think that could be overblown. But certainly when all else is equal, all the intangibles, and you put it out there and you feel like everybody is exactly equal, maybe you can go rely on some of those numbers. But I think, to your point, a lesser degree these days than it was maybe, say, a decade ago.
All right, so when you think about where it is, it's in Indianapolis. They utilize a dome for it, obviously. There have been some people who have said, hey, let's go somewhere that's got multiple fields. You can get it done a lot quicker. I think they lose sight of this is a spectacle. I mean, this has become a made-for-television event, has it not?
Yeah, it has, and so that's why they space it out in terms of position groups and how, when they can televise everything. And of course, in Indianapolis, it's from the field may be an issue, right, at Lucas Oil, but beyond that, everything is right downtown.
And connected.
That's right. With the convention center there, there's obviously the basketball arena, and hotels all in one spot.
And you left St. Elmo's restaurant.
I was going to get there.
Okay,
you got to get a steak.
Cocktail.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. All right, so let's dive into it. So the Frogs have 9 players there. I'm not going to put you on the spot and say, hey, where do they go?
Sure.
But let's just talk about what pro scouts are going to be looking at when talking about these players. And let's do that. Let's start with Darius Davis. Yeah. All right, slot receiver, returner. I feel like maybe more of a returner as far as an opportunity to make a squad.
Yeah, I think so too. And everyone had him down as potentially the fastest guy in college football this year. Right? They'll be able to quantify that during this process. So I think it's a big for him. That says a lot. But yeah, as a returner, I think that's where he's going to make his mark and would get him drafted. And then I think as teams go now with limited roster size at 53-man roster, if you make that, you got to be able to do other things. And so I think he's got to be able to prove to teams that he can do some things in special teams, not just returning, and obviously as a slot, like you said. But I think it really, the NFL game now has lent itself to players like Darius Davis, right? You look at the Kansas City Chiefs, just really look at both teams in the Super Bowl this year and what they're doing with players like that, and you go back to the Tyreek Hills, where you're motioning them in and out of the backfield, fly motion, jet sweeps, orbit motions. A lot of stuff they were doing with him at TCU was doing with him can apply now to the NFL because I think everything just trickles up. It goes from high school football where things are innovative to college to now the NFL, as opposed to what people normally think it's the other way around.
The one guy I was most excited to see get an opportunity at the Combine, and you got 9 guys there as we talked about, was Alana Lee, because I was worried he was going to get overlooked, and I thought he had a really good senior year. Is he an NFL center?
I think so. Yeah, I do, and I think he's going to be a guy that people look to as a workhorse that they're going to appreciate to have on the roster. Just a team first guy. One of the guys that's going to really add value to any offensive line room that coaches are looking for. Just hey, I'm not you don't want divas in that room, right? Offensive line, and he's certainly not, right? So he's going to add a lot of value to an NFL spot.
Yeah, and he's also a guy too that's got a lot of football under his belt. So he brings a ton of experience. Same for Steve Avila, who'll be there. What is he now? He started his career as a center. He's left-handed. Is he a guard? What is Steve Avila?
Yeah, I think for the NFL, they're going to look at him as a center first and foremost. But again, it goes back to that versatility. It doesn't stop at the offensive line. You got to be able to do multiple things.
Right.
And it's sort of that totem pole deal where you want to play your 5 best.
Yep.
And that's going to help his cause because you're not just saying, oh, you're just pegged as a center. I think he's shown obviously that he can do other things.
And you think he's really talented? You think he's an NFL guy, right?
I think he's an early guy, or should be. I actually think he's one of the players for all the attention, and rightfully so, that the group we're talking about got this year.
Mm-hmm.
I personally thought he was underrated.
Yeah.
I just think that if you put on the tape and you go to him, he's doing things at a really high level consistently.
Quentin Johnston was not underrated. He wasn't overrated either, though.
Right.
People thought highly of him, and with good reason.
Yeah, and by all accounts, he's a first round guy still. Most of the pundits have him as the top guy at that position. Of course, the length, you don't see that combination of size and speed too often, and so you want to get a guy like that when you can.
And he's a guy, too, that proved that he was tougher than some people thought as well. Yeah. Yards after catch, I think, surprised folks.
Yeah, it did. I think, they looked at him and maybe thought he was a little bit more wiry than he actually is. He's actually, as we know, pretty well put together.
Right.
And so I thought that was the durability was a concern going in, but he's proven that, he stayed healthy. He made some tough catches. He did some things over the middle, a lot of crossing routes this year. So I think he put that criticism to bed.
Were you surprised Trey Hodges-Tomlinson is there?
No, I'm not surprised. I think, obviously we all know you can't overcome that height part of it. I mean, it is what it is, right?
You talk about you've been trying to do it for 40-something years.
I have. My doctor says my growing spurt's going to happen.
Is it?
In a year or two. Yeah, I'm hanging on. Hopefully it'll happen. But so for him, I mean, that's an issue. But I think again, the NFL, when you go look at today's world, it's about matchups, and it's all about creating matchup on the field, not just offensively, but defensively, where you can put a nickel on the field to just cover a slot, and now all of a sudden you're going against smaller receivers.
So then you've got Trey Tomlinson versus Darius Davis.
That's right.
And that's a good matchup.
Yeah, absolutely, right? And so that favors, to have him just sit, an anchor on the outside, I don't know. That's probably going to be tough for him to convince NFL teams for right now because of the height. But certainly, as a Thorpe Award winner, a guy that everyone deemed the best defensive back in college football, that award is powerful, right? I think he deserves a shot to show him what he can do.
Was it unfair what the Senior Bowl director said about him? Said, hey, the NFL doesn't draft 5'7" corners. Was that unfair?
No, I mean, I think that if you just look historically, it's tough to hear we all know how great of a personality and how great of a player he is, frankly. It's tough to hear, right, when you root for a guy like that. Mm-hmm. But I think he was being honest and just looking at the data and looking at historically, this is the kind of corners that they've stayed away from. But again, I think he was wrong in the sense where things are headed. I think you've got to, if you're going to draft all these slots that we talked about, the Darius Davises of the world, you've got to have someone to defend him, and you don't want a 6'2" corner, doesn't have the same kind of hips as a guy that at his stature.
All right, the guy with maybe the most upside is Dylan Horton, I think. Yeah. You buy that?
Yeah, I mean, it's remarkable what he's done, right? Obviously, a guy that's come from, he's just each phase of his career, he's moved down, right? Starting at safety over in Frisco in high school and at New Mexico, and then to bump down to linebacker, and then, really putting his hand in the ground is fairly new for him.
Yep.
So, but he's maintained that quickness and that get off out of his stance, and so he's still a fast switch guy in a much bigger body, and NFL teams are always looking for guys to get after the passer.
Kendre Miller.
Yeah, so Kendre, to me, we go back to underrated. I think he was underrated.
Right.
I really do. That Texas game, it was on full display, right?
Yeah.
Granted, you don't go against Bijan Robinson one-on-one, but everyone there was there to see Bijan Robinson as quote-unquote the best back in the country. And on that night, Kendre Miller made a statement, and I think he's built for it. You know, he can get the tough yards. He has good knee drive, and so he's tough to tackle when it comes to that. His breakaway speed has been there. So I think, you know, the problem for him is nothing that of his fault. It's just running backs aren't valued as much as they used to be.
Crazy.
In the draft. It is crazy, right? Yeah. So, you know, he may go a little bit later than people anticipate just based on the position.
Yeah, if this was 1979, you know, he's a first-round pick.
There's no doubt.
Yeah. All right, we've got a couple more. D. Winters, linebacker. Yeah. Is size going to hurt him as well? A
little bit. I think, you know, but again, you know, the NFL, I keep going back to it, it's just evolving, right? And so you can use him in some third down situations. He's really proven that, you know, what was most impressive to me with him this year is in spite of his size, he was able to play on the line of scrimmage. They asked him to do that, especially as they started playing the Michigans of the world and the Kansas States where they're using those extra tight ends. They put him on the line of scrimmage, and he more than held his own. In fact, he in some cases dominated. I mean, that Michigan game, he played as good as you can ask for, you know, defender. So I think he's proven that. He's also, his pass rush has gone up quite a bit. So I think if you look at him as not a traditional, just, you know, sit at second level linebacker and move him around and create some mismatches against some large tackles, I think that, you know, he can find his niche in the NFL.
All right, Max Duggan, the quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, what's not to love, right? And again, you know, you go back and Max would not be in the conversation in the old NFL.
Right.
But a guy that has top end speed at his position for a quarterback, can move around. I think, you know, mechanics. He's out in Southern California right now, working on just that with guy, you know, Jordan Palmer, who's worked with Josh Allen and you know, some of the best in the NFL right now. And so he's going through that. He's going through NFL playbook type stuff. But man, if you just put on the tape, I mean, at every level of football, Brian, I think everyone makes this mistake. You get fooled by quarterbacks all the time. It happens to the best of us, right? I've certainly done it, you know, at a much lower level. But you look at a guy in shorts and he can spin the ball and it's airtight and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, you put on the film, is this guy helping your team win games? And as we know, Max Duggan has done that.
I'm still waiting on Andre Ware to lead somebody to a championship in the NFL.
That's
you know,
right.
You do miss on occasion. All right, what are they going to hold against him, though?
Well, I mean, I think, you know, it's not the traditional pocket passer that you see from the NFL. He's not 6'6", right? So I think it's going to be a little bit, if you can get past that sort of being unconventional, I think they'll hold that against him. I think, you know, productivity up until his senior year, because again, you remember these guys they're looking for stuff not to take you, right? And they're going through a fine-tooth comb. Is that fair? I don't know. It's not for me to determine, but I think those are some of the things, you know, just kind of his history up to this point. But again, as we know, there was a lot of factors there.
All right, so starting tomorrow, folks, Coach Beaudin's phone is on Do Not Disturb for the next 4 days. He'll be zoned in on the combine, right?
I love it.
Yeah, you'll be all about it. And then so next week, can we bring you back on, kind of review how the Horned Frogs did?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, it'd be a lot of fun.
Okay, good deal.
Absolutely.
All right, that's Coach David Beaudin dissecting the Frogs here as we turn our attention to Indianapolis and the combine, which cranks up on Thursday. All right, coming up next here on Frogs Today, Jamie Plunkett's going to join us. Big weekend for Kirk Sarlos' team down at Minute Maid Park in Houston. Some of the best will be down there. We'll talk a little college baseball when Jamie joins us next. Frogs Today continues after this timeout.
Texas-based Happy Water offers the best-tasting, sugar-free kids drink ever made. Happy Water comes in 4 delicious flavors that you can find at local retailers and on Amazon. Each pouch contains 0 grams of sugar, 0 calories, and 0% juice. Head to happydrinks.com for more information and to purchase Happy Water. That's HAPI Live happy, be happy, drink happy. Say hello to the water of tomorrow. Richard's Rainwater. Richard's Rainwater is 100% rain, refreshing, renewable, and the only ingredient we use in our water. Why rain? Because everyone deserves access to clean water, and rain is a 100% renewable resource available everywhere. Drink the rain. Save the planet. Shop now at richardsrainwater.com. Dave's Hot Chicken is a cult favorite and now has 2 locations in Fort Worth, Bryant Irvin Road on I-20 and Berry Street at TCU, both owned and operated by Horned Frogs. Mention the Frogs Today show and get 10% off anytime and order online at daveshotchicken.com.
The Flying T Club provides the everyday TCU fan and alum the ability to specifically support TCU student athletes. Flying T Club offers 3 levels of memberships. The Flying T Club is a nonprofit organization supporting the brand development of TCU student athletes through a series of unique event-based networking opportunities, which are exclusive to our members. These events provide a great social engagement tool for our members and student athletes alike. Follow them on Instagram at Flying T Club or online at flyingtclub.com. Wednesday edition of Frogs Today rolling on here at the Flying T Club studio. So we change gears a little bit, talk a little baseball with Jamie Plunkett, who was out at the midweek game this week, obviously, for the Horned Frogs, which fell on a Tuesday night, of all things, at Dallas Baptist. Frogs get the win. That's DBU's first loss, wasn't it?
It was DBU's first loss of the year. They're sitting there at 6-1, 7-1, something like that now. And the Frogs moved to 5-3 on the season and beat DBU for the first time since 2018. So it's a pretty nice win for the Horned Frogs.
These midweek games, too, against teams like Abilene Christian, Tarleton, DBU, they're going to throw a really good pitcher. And sometimes those can be some of your most difficult games of the year. This was a good one to get.
It was a good one to get. Hefner over there, Coach Hefner, has done a tremendous job. And, you think about this kind of crosstown rivalry that's developing between these two schools. TCU winning last night makes them 19-19 against DBU since 2004.
Wow.
So it's been a very competitive series for a long time now. And Hefner brings some really good arms into the mix. I mean, you saw 5 or 6 guys come out of their bullpen last night that were throwing 95, 96, keeping TCU off balance, which is one of the reasons this game went 12 innings. But at the end of the day, big plays by some freshmen late. Trey Richardson gets a 2-run RBI single up the middle to make it 4-1 in the 12th inning, and the Frogs close it out from there.
You had a chance to catch up with Trey, too, afterwards,
yes.
didn't you? Yeah. What did you guys talk about?
We chatted about a couple different things, but one of my main questions to him was, with the freshmen and the impact they've made this year, plus all of the transfer impacts that have been made this year, kind of what's their mindset as they've approached the season and now that they've gotten into it. He had a really good answer, actually.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's, I tell people all the time, no disrespect to anybody who's come before us, but this TCU team is, it's just a different team. I mean, we've got, a ton of freshmen. We've got a ton of, new players and myself, Austin, and, a lot of other people that are being put in these positions. And it's just, we came here to win. And so whenever you go and get put in these positions, we're just playing a game that we love. We're not looking at it as, we're the new guys. We need to prove our points. They know how good we are. They know how good the new guys, especially the freshmen. That's just one thing, I tell, Anthony, especially playing up the middle, and Carson is, just go out and be you. Just go out and be you and play, because I understand, coming to school and having, thinking you have some sort of expectation on you, that'll start dragging at your mental. But, when you've got a supporting cast of guys that have played college baseball for years and years, you just got to go out there and be you, and, we'll take care of the rest. Just go out there and play baseball, and, that's what they did today, and that's what they have been doing all year. So kudos to them.
Trey wasn't the only player you talked to, Jamie. You caught up with Carson Bowen, the catcher freshman, making a difference already.
Yeah, this was his 4th start behind the plate.
Yeah.
He's got an incredibly strong arm. He keeps being more and more impressive. He threw another guy out who was trying to steal, caught by Trey Richardson, who applied that tag, by the way. But Carson had a pretty interesting moment last night. He actually caught Luis Rodriguez for 5 innings, and they were high school teammates. They were teammates on the 12 and under team for the United States as well. They've been playing together for about 8 years. So I asked him about their relationship and what it's like to play college ball with his buddy, and this is what he had to say about that.
It's so much fun. It's a dream come true, honestly, because we played together when we were 12, and to think about it now, it's absolutely crazy. And I've caught him for the last 8 years, so it's been so much fun.
Carson doesn't sound like a freshman there, Jamie. All right, Kirk Sarlos afterwards. I know you had a chance to visit with him as well. He had to be pleased with the way his team played.
He was. I think he would have liked to see more offense, but he also understood the quality of the arms that Hefner was rolling out on DBU's side of things. And so he was pleased with the win. TCU did strike out 18 times, though, which is the most they've done this year, most since an April game last year at Florida State, actually. And so he talked a little bit about, it's better to win striking out a lot than lose striking out a lot, but at some point you've got to chalk up that to the quality of arms. This is what he had to say about those strikeouts.
Well, I think a lot of it was they had good stuff, and they got in a rhythm. Their pitching coach did, and their pitchers did, and you don't want to just give outs away in terms of striking out and not having them have to do anything defensively, but at the end of the day, it's a win, and you'd rather win striking out a bunch than lose striking out a bunch. So I think it just comes down to, our guys being ready to hit the fastball. I think they did a good job of throwing breaking balls for strikes, and then slowed us down, and then they kind of beat us up with some fastballs. So I think we were just kind of guessing back and forth. We were in between ahead of the breaking ball and behind the fastball. That's a bad recipe.
All right, extended conversation there with Kirk Sarlos, the head baseball coach. All right, what's next? They head down to Houston, Minute Maid Park. This is a big event going on this weekend.
Yeah, the Shriners Children's College Classic. Say that 4 times fast, right? It's a wonderful tournament every year put on by the Shriners and the Children's Hospital down there in Houston. A lot of that money made from this weekend will go back into that Children's Hospital, take care of those kids. You hear a lot of those stories throughout the weekend as well. Some of those kids are out there at the games, throwing out first pitches, that kind of stuff. But beyond that, it's another opportunity for TCU to play in a major league stadium. They've got Michigan on Friday, Louisville on Saturday, and Rice on Sunday as their opponents. All those games are at 3 p.m. So it's another opportunity for some quality competition in a big league park for a good cause. You're checking all the boxes for TCU.
You'll be down there covering it for us,
I'll be down there. Yeah.
All right, all weekend long. You can find out the latest there at frogstoday.com. You can also, obviously, next week come back with Jamie's summary of what happened this past weekend down in Houston. By the way, breaking news, men's golf team in the top 30.
How about that?
How about that? Bill Monagle's team. Got him in the top 30 right now. That's going to do it for today's edition of Frogs Today. See you tonight. It's a purple out, remember. The Horned Frogs and the Texas Longhorns meeting at Schollmeyer Arena. And then coming up on Friday, we'll have highlights of that game, plus look ahead to what the weekend looks like for TCU baseball. That's on the Friday edition of Frogs Today. Until we see you then, have yourself a great week. Go Frogs.
There's a pretty good pregame show happening tonight.
Oh, there is a pregame show. Don't forget about that. We're not done yet. Pregame show tonight, 7 o'clock, right?
7 p.m.
Postgame as well?
Postgame, me and Bingo Merrick's out there breaking down the game.
Yeah, Bingo will be in purple. All right, now we're done.
Frogs Today is brought to you by the Flying Tea Club, supporting TCU student athletes, and by Richard's Rainwater. Say hello to the water of tomorrow. Frogs Today is a production of Roxo Media House. Roxo Media House.